want to talk to you about this concept of overnight success. There is no overnight success. When you think somebody has overnight success, if you go back and look at them, they've had always a long working struggle to make it. Okay? So no band, no artist just pops out of nowhere. And if that ever does happen, you don't want that, because you need that struggle. You need to climb up step by step, because if not, if you get there too quick, you're just gonna fall very quick as well. So I want to use the band Van Halen today as our example of overnight success. I love that. So Van Halen, a band that sold nearly 100 million albums. It didn't just happen for them, right? It didn't just all of a sudden they get together and play and then all of a sudden it's superstardom. It was a grind. It was a struggle. Okay, so you had Eddie and Alex Van Halen, brothers. You know, they were playing music at an early age, piano, and then early on, Alex actually played guitar and Eddie played drums. And Eddie says that the drum set he bought was from his first or only real job he had, which is a paper route. But they soon realized that they needed to switch. So Alex went to drums, Eddie picked up the guitar. And they said that Eddie, when he picked up the guitar, things came to him really naturally. So when I'm talking about Van Halen, I'm talking about the very first lineup of Van Halen 1, which was Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, David Lee Roth, and Michael Anthony. So the first band that Eddie and Alex had, the Trojan Rubber Company, they would just play around town, right? They were living in Pasadena, California, and they would do any gigs they can, mainly like high school parties or playing at the local junior college. And they were playing around, and then they later changed their name to Genesis, and then they realized there was actually a different band called Genesis, so they changed their band name to Mammoth, and at the time, Eddie was playing guitar and the lead singer. Well, David Lee Roth was also around playing in the band. He had his own band called Red Ball Jet, and they would see each other from time to time, and what would end up happening was that Mammoth, their PA, ended up blowing up, and so they would rent the PA from David Lee Roth. Well, over time, they realized we need to stop being a three-piece, right? They love Cream, and Eddie Van Halen loves Eric Clapton. He says that it's really one of the only guitar players that really touched him. But they realized bands like Led Zeppelin and the Stones were having more success with a lead singer. So they decided they needed a lead singer. Plus, they decided, well, why rent the PA from David Lee Roth? Let's go ahead and bring him in the band, and then we can use the PA. So they bring him into the band. They eventually changed their name to Van Halen. They're playing anywhere they can. They're playing high school parties. They're playing small little dive bars, biker bars, just anywhere they can get a gig. If a gig was offered, they would take it. They would haul their equipment and they would do it. No, doesn't matter what time it was, doesn't matter where it is, they would always do it. And so they always said that after high school, between high school and getting discovered, that was really where the work was, right? Because this is reals now. This is like your life. And one of Alex's friends asked him, he said, what are you gonna do after this? Almost like this is just a side thing, or this is something fun that we do as kids. And Alex was like, this is what I do. There is no plan B. And so I started playing Hollywood. I played bars like the Whiskey and the Troubadour, Gazzari's, and then the Starwood. And at some point they met Michael Anthony. He was playing in another band, Snake, and Van Halen's PA yet blew up again. And so Michael Anthony let them borrow their PA for the gig. They really liked him. They auditioned, and then he joined the band. So at first, they just did cover music, right? They had like 300 cover songs that they would play. And this would help them get them into clubs. But then they started slowly working in their own material, such as Running with the Devil or Dead or Alive. And so the Starwood, one night, they started bringing in like a lot of, not only girls, but a lot of musicians started coming, and Kiss was there, Gene Simmons was there. He saw them, loved them, flew them to New York. They recorded a 13-song demo. So then he was like, I can get him a record deal. So he started shopping around, because Kiss at the time was huge. They figured, he knew someone that would give him a record deal. Nothing, couldn't get him a deal. So gave him the demo, and they just continued to work, continued to play. They were rehearsing 7 days a week and gigging 4 nights a week. All right, so then in 77, so now here's 77. This is already, they started early bands in the early 70s, right? So this is already a lot of time gone by. They get a deal with Warner Brothers. And so then they released Van Halen 1 in 78. And even though it went platinum within a few months, their first tour to support it was backing up Journey. So they were the opening band for Journey, but they're still driving around in a U-Haul, right? So even though you have a platinum album, you're still working, you're still grinding. Later, they opened up for Black Sabbath, and they said that they actually blew Black Sabbath out of water. Actually, Ozzy actually said that. So then, by the time their second album came out, they were the headliner. So they were able to go around as a headliner and start to make it bigger and bigger. But they hadn't made it yet. They were still working, they were still grinding, right? They were still building that fan base. And then later on, they got this gig from the US Festival, and that was a festival that Apple founder Steve Wozniak put on, and they got paid $1.5 million to play an hour and 55-minute set. And it was a Guinness World Record because they were getting $13,000 a minute for this festival. And this is a big festival. You know, it had bands like The Clash and David Bowie, the Pretenders were there. So then, 1984, they released their album 1984, goes number 2, and then they have the number 1 hit in Jump. But imagine this time now, 1984 or early 70s. I mean, that's a big span. That's not overnight success. Right? They were putting in the time, they were working, and that's the only way to really make it, right? It's the only way to really make it to the top and stay at the top. So next time you think of overnight success, that just usually means that that's when you heard about them, or that's a media term. You know, they came out of nowhere. But chances are that band, that artist has been putting in the time for years, and you never saw the struggles to get to where they are. So right now, enjoy that struggle. There is no overnight success. So don't plan on just doing something and then the next day you're huge. Just put in the time, work, grind it out, because in the long run, once you get to the top, then you're going to be able to stay at the top.